Have you ever just looked around and wondered why the world is the way it is? I'm not just talking about mountains and oceans, but our cities, our cultures, even the way our economies work. Well, today we're diving into the field that has the answers: human geography.
I mean, really think about it for a second. Why is a city like Dubai, literally built out of the desert, so completely different from a coastal city like Tokyo? Or why do some cultures focus so much on the group, while others are all about the individual? These huge differences, they're not just random. The answers are kind of written right into the land we live on.
And it all boils down to this really powerful, constant back and forth. This one idea is the absolute heart of human geography. And it's the key to unlocking our world, this incredible two-way relationship between us and the planet.
Okay, so let's break that down. This isn't just some abstract concept. It's a real dynamic force that has shaped, well, every single moment of human history. And to really get it, we've got to start with the basics.
So what is human geography really? At its core, it's the study of that very relationship. It's so much more than maps and places. It's about the living, breathing connection between people and the spaces they call home.
This field tries to answer some of the biggest questions we have about ourselves. Why are places like deserts and the Arctic so empty compared to, say, river valleys? How did totally different economic systems pop up? And what's the long-term price for all the changes we're making to our world?
All right, let's look at the first half of this relationship: the incredible power of the Earth over us. For most of our time on this planet, this was the only story.
Early on, we went through a phase you could call the naturalization of humans. This was a time when our species was, for all intents and purposes, completely at the mercy of the environment. We had to adapt to nature. There was no other choice.
Basically, nature was in the driver's seat. Early human tribes followed the seasons. They migrated with the herds, and they settled where there was clean water. Their food, their shelter, their very survival. It was all decided by the natural world around them.
But then, something amazing happened. The whole balance of power started to shift. And that brings us to the second half of our story: how we started to reshape the planet itself.
This new era, it's called the humanization of nature. Through all kinds of inventions and new ideas, from the very first plow to a modern supercomputer, we developed this incredible ability to change our environment to fit what we needed and wanted.
And the scale of our impact has been just staggering. We've built massive dams to tame huge rivers. We've carved highways right through mountains, built these sprawling cities, and even figured out how to make deserts bloom with crops. We became a major force of change on this planet. So you see the shift here? It's huge. We went from being passive passengers, just adapting to nature's rules, to becoming active architects, using technology to write our own. Honestly, it's one of the most dramatic pivots in the history of our planet.
So, does that mean we've conquered nature? Well, not exactly. Our understanding of this whole relationship has gotten way more complicated, which has led us on this search for a middle path, a balance.
And this search for balance, it's been a long road. At first, we thought nature controlled everything. Then, with the Industrial Revolution, this idea called possibilism took over, the belief that with technology, we could do anything to our environment. But that led to its own set of problems, which brings us to a more modern, more careful view called neo-determinism. Neo-determinism is kind of like a stop-and-go philosophy. It gets that nature gives us opportunities and also sets some limits, but it really emphasizes that it's on us to use those opportunities wisely, sustainably. It's not about winning. It's about partnership. Which brings us to the big question, right? Why does any of this matter to us today? Well, understanding this whole dynamic is more critical now than ever before if we want to plan for our future together. You see, human geography isn't just one big thing. It's this huge field with tons of different branches, and each one is looking at this human environment dance from a totally different, specialized angle. So for example, you've got social geography, which helps us get why some neighborhoods have their own unique vibe. Then there's urban geography, which is trying to solve the puzzle of housing and traffic in giant megacities. And political geography, that looks at the real-world effects of borders and politics on the ground. And there's more. Economic geography tracks how the stuff you buy gets from one side of the world to the other. Population geography explains why people move and where they go. And cultural geography, that explores cool stuff like why certain music or art styles explode in one place but not another. So, at the end of the day, this field isn't just some academic thing for a textbook. It actually shapes our everyday lives. It's the science behind planning better cities, creating transit that actually works, and managing our resources so there's something left for the next generation. It's how we connect the dots between where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. When you really zoom out, that's what this is all about. It gives us a way to understand the epic story of humanity, our journey across this planet, our wins, our mistakes, and our ongoing, complicated relationship with the only home we've ever known.
So, we've seen the power shift from nature's hands to ours. We've seen the consequences, and this searched for a better way, for balance. And all of that leaves us with the most important question of all, one for every single one of us to think about. Looking ahead, how are we going to choose to shape our world? And in doing so, how will we shape ourselves?